All right. Hello, hello. Is it good? Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Is it good? I'm gonna go turn the music off. You can hear me? I'll turn the music off and start talking. Yeah. You can kick off. I'll kick off. Yeah. So I'm doing it now. Hey, Andrea, how's the sound on this one? I don't know. It's supposed to. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there is actually, yeah. Hello. Okay, we good? Andrea, is a live stream going? Yeah, great, awesome. All right, hey everyone, thanks for coming along to this investor meet and greet for our crowdfund. Basically what I'm going to do is run through the information memorandum, which has the details of all of the offer that we're currently putting out. And we're actually going to start on a light-hearted note and have a look at the crowdfund video, so you guys are getting the first view of that. You might have thought that you've seen it, but we actually just gave a teaser video. This is going to be the full video. So I'll maybe launch into that. As you can see here, you can see Lucy here, and also Jared is a good, yeah. Jared's so handsome that every graphic designer we give our documents to, they always take this photo of Jared and put it in here, completely independently. Completely independently. It's not me. It's every graphic designer we give it to. They grab a photo of Jared. Okay. So right, we'll have a look at this.
It's crazy. It's 9 a.m. here at Three Sisters Brewery, and they're already banging on the door to come in. You've got to give them what they want.
You know, since the last crowdfund, we've grown 12 times in capacity. We'd only planned for 4, so you could say we've smashed expectations. Since 2022, we've tripled our output of beer. That means we're brewing 100,000 litres a year.
That's like twice the amount of this pool. And if that's not enough, we've even started exporting across the dick.
Cheers, mate. Crikey, that's good.
Fair ding come.
Better than a rat up a drain pipe. Too right, mate.
So in the last few years, our revenue has doubled. That's right, doubled. We've also been streamlining our operations. We've become a lean, mean fighting machine.
So once again, we need your support to help Three Sisters Brewery become harder, better, faster, stronger.
In other words, our focus is to keep enhancing profitability for some serious future growth.
Like Abraham Lincoln said, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening an axe.
Now that is efficient.
So what's the most important ingredient in beer? It's not hops, it starts with cuss and ends in toma.
And because we love our customers so much, we want to expand our bar space by another 50 square meters, so you've got more room to play. Hey, we're still filming, lads. Just bring them some more beers. So the next big upgrade we want to make is our old brew house. Well, what's wrong with that, you might ask? Absolutely nothing, but you need more hardware to make more drinkware.
Our goal is to triple production and brew 300,000 litres per year. That's 6 times the size of this pool. To do that, we're going to need a bigger chiller. It's getting pretty tight in this one.
So I guess the question is, why would you want to invest your hard-earned money into beer? There's a lot of uncertainty in the world, but among all the chaos, there's one thing that's certain. People will always drink beer, and beer will always bring people together. Here's our key beer performance indicators. Check out those sexy curves. Like me and my budgie smugglers. They're all going up, 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 like me and my budgie.
Righto, mate. Why should I invest into your brewery? What's in it for me, mate?
Got heaps of perks for you. Oh, that one's for later. For example, personalised beer cans if you're a shareholder.
You kidding me? That's me face on the tinny. Bloody awesome, mate.
And there's heaps more perks on the list too. So if you want to support this champion brewery and help us raise the bar once again, buy our shares and fill your cup.
In here, a lot of small words, but at least here in the brew pub, probably easier to look at online. Yeah, so this is our third crowdfund. The first crowdfund we did was actually we call it rewards-based crowdfund. It wasn't equity-based. We basically pre-sold a bunch of beer to help us get into when we were looking at moving the brewery from our basement in Okura into the old TSB bank here, and we pre-sold a whole load of beer, and that was great. We had really good support. Everyone was really keen for us to do that, and yeah, that was great. And we did that, and we moved in here, and things went really well. We quickly found that we were at capacity. So we had a few tanks, and we were basically brewing hard out and couldn't keep up. And we did our first equity crowdfund in 2022. I think, yeah, people will remember that one. And so the premise there was to expand the capacity because we needed more fermentation space. Fermentation tanks, and we at the time wanted to quadruple our capacity, and we ended up 12 times our capacity by installing these tanks here and moving into the space next door, and also a number of other features. So we improved the bar space. You might have, anyone who was here who's followed our journey will know that we used to have quite a lot of the Oktoberfest type tables in here, and it wasn't particularly comfortable. So we spent a lot of money with the refit out of the space, and also addressing the acoustics and a few other sort of important issues that needed to be addressed. We'll move forward. So here's a little bit about some of the beers that we've made. So obviously we're a brewery. It's kind of about the beer. I'm just really passionate about making beer, and that's what has kind of, in some respects, got us where we are today. I'm always looking forward to making the next beer and trying out new things, and hopefully that that's sort of been reflected in some of the success that we've had. Particularly in the last 4 years. Prior to that, we were in my basement, but in the last 4 years, we seem to have done particularly well. We've won champion brewery trophies now 4 years in a row. First in 2021, where we won champion microbrewery, and we moved, once we'd increased our capacity, moved up to small brewery status and took out the champion small brewery that year with 3 gold medals at the Brewers Guild of New Zealand Awards. And then the following year, we thought we'd set our sights even higher and target the Australian International Beer Awards. It's the biggest beer competition of its kind worldwide, the largest number of beers in terms of packaged and kegged entries. I think they have 2,500 to 3,000 entries typically per year, and around about 150 or so international breweries that enter the competition. And in 2023, we took out the champion small brewery with 4 gold medals and a number of other medals. And actually this year, 2024, we had particular success actually, and our best ever medal haul with four more gold medals, but we also had another 9 silver medals and 13 bronze medals. Almost all our beers medaled actually, and even though we won the champion small brewery status, as far as I'm aware, we actually were the second best international brewery out of about 150 breweries, and the only garage project did better than us. It was really quite a proud achievement of mine and of ours. So this slide pretty much depicts the same thing. It's a story of our history and where we're at. If we look at the left-hand side, you see quite an inspiration of mine was my granddad, Ernie, who I lived next door to growing up, who owned a pub. And I think, that's what's really put beer in my heart, I suppose, and maybe want to follow this journey. And it's great to sort of follow in their footsteps, and a lot of the beers and a lot of the memorabilia around the place kind of does honor some of that connection. Some of you that might have been to festivals recently might have seen us in our gel paraphernalia. You might wonder how that came about, but in 2021, we went to Bivana. The first time we went to Bivana, actually, so we were a relatively new brewery at that point in time. It was the first year after we'd moved into the old bank here, and we just had a plastic pop-up table, and it was about all we could afford, really, and a kegerator or two. And we had a look around at all the other breweries and some of the great stands, and we thought, well, what we're doing here is not reflecting, what we really want to be and where we want to go. So we had some brainstorming on the way back. Amaya, some of you may remember Amaya, our sales and marketing guy, and we sort of brainstormed that it would be, because in that year we actually had a gangster theme in 2021. We thought it'd be fun if we came back in 2022 as in jail, and we thought, well, if we were in jail, what would we be in jail for? Well, we break a lot of the Reinheitsgebot laws. So Reinheitsgebot is German beer purity law, and most of the beers we make tend to break that law. They don't put you in prison in Germany for doing that, but it would be funny if they did. So that's kind of the general gist of the stand, really. But people really seem to like it. We get a lot of good comments. So far, we've made 146 different beers. And I would say, that's climbing fairly rapidly. Every other beer we make tends to be a new one. I think every time you come to the bar, that's something which we hope is of interest to people. Most of the time, there's something new on tap. We do like to go back and revisit a lot of our sort of old beers, and we have a bit of a core range as well, but we really like to experiment and keep trying new things, and that's something that we're just going to continue to do going forward. In particular, we do like a series when it comes to the beers. So the liquid cake series we started, that's our pastry stout series. We've tried we've had chocolate vanilla, chocolate cinnamon, chocolate hazelnut, chocolate coffee. Chocolate goes so well in beer, go well in pastry stouts, so we'll probably continue on the chocolate theme. So typically be chocolate cake plus other things. these are great fun beers to make. Also, Sewer Plumes, our sour series. It's interesting when you talk to a lot of people around the country, and when you talk to them about how they perceive our brand and what they think of us as, it is these sort of pastry style beers. It's interesting. It's I mean, it's a reasonable portion of what we do, but it really seems to stick in the public's mind in terms of what we're known for, and I think we do like leaning into that. However, we do also make lots of good pale ales, IPAs, hazy beers, all of those. And as mentioned before, we do a bit of series to honour some of my heritage. I really like making the English styles. There seems to be a good niche in New Zealand for the English styles, surprisingly actually, how strong that seems to be growing as well. So here's a bit about the team. So my wife Sarah, she helps a lot behind the scenes, particularly with all of the paperwork. That's Sarah over there. You want to wave your hand? You might know a little bit about this Three Sisters is my passion project, and apart from the fact that I love making beer, I have a background in project management and engineering in a number of industries. I'll introduce Lucy, is our front of house manager. Lucy's actually been with us from the beginning, which is great. She's just really progressed. She's been here from the kitchen as a kitchen hand through to front of house manager, and it's great to see her progress and her growing in confidence in everything she does. Stewie's our head chef. Anyone who comes here and tries his food will know that he really cooks with passion and love, and it's great to see. Anything he makes tends to be amazing. It's like he knocks stuff up for the staff. Like, here's a fish curry. It's like, wow, it's the best fish curry I've ever made. So you might see a bit more of that in the menu in the future. Actually, I'm encouraging him to do that. And Mark is a consultant that's come on board. He's been with us for the last, I'm going to say, year or so, and it's been really good to have his input. You can't beat having really good, experienced people giving you advice. Here's a slide about where you can get our beer. Pretty much anywhere in New Zealand, we've sold beer. I mean, that's an artistic impression. We haven't sold in too much in the Southern Alps, but it pretty much everywhere in New Zealand we've sold at some point or another. We've started exporting to Australia for our distributors, and I've seen our beer popping up all over the place. We don't have too much control over where it goes over there. We send it to distributors, it goes all over the place, and I'm always amazed at seeing it pop up in Tasmania and all kinds of places. It's really cool to see that. We have our beer's actually been to Antarctica on the HMNZS Aotearoa, so I don't think many breweries can say that. So that's really great. And we've started, this is a recent development, and one of the main reasons we're actually looking at crowdfund again. We have started exporting to China. In fact, the team and I have been absolutely flat out today. We're a bit slow getting going today, but that's because we've been absolutely flat out canning for China. We've actually had all these tanks were full earlier today, and they've all been emptied. It's great. As you'll see, I'll come to some more details about the China market, but it's huge. Right, so we'll get into a bit more of the detail on facts and figures. So the market opportunity, wanted to talk about how big the beer markets are. I mean, there's been some tough times, as people will know. There's been some, the beer industry has has had it rough a little bit. I think that's fair to say in the last sort of year or so. That's typically impacted some of your bigger players who have really significant volumes or have a significant market share. We're a young brewery, and we've been growing rapidly, and we're continuing to grow. And against that trend, in fact, and I think if I could summarize why that is, it's because the market is huge, and we're growing in it. So we're growing our market share. In fact, yeah, the fact that the market's shrinking and we're still growing shows that in terms of market share, we're actually growing well against the trend. So New Zealand drinks about 0.29 billion litres per year. The Australian market's 1 billion litres a year, and the Chinese market is 42 billion litres per year. So it's way off the chart here. Three Sisters currently produces 0.0001 billion litres. So we feel that there's plenty of room to grow there, and that's the fact that the overall market may be shrinking. That doesn't really impact us, or doesn't seem to be impacting us, and that's why. So here's some Q&A which describes some of that, but what we'd also like to mention is that we want to tap into, there's a lot of other markets, even in New Zealand, that we can tap into for beer. In particular, we want to look into personalization, because the personalization of beer, or personalization generally, is a real hot topic and a real hot trend across all industries, in fact. Even Coca-Cola, you can actually go online and they'll deliver, if you pay some money, they'll deliver Coca-Cola cans with your name printed on, right? There's a little bit of that happening in beer, but we feel it's underexploited at the moment. When you look at some recent trend information published by Forbes magazine about hyper-personalization, and the thought is in the not too distant future, it's not going to be a question of are you doing personalization, it's how well are you doing it, and are you doing it better than your peers, basically. So we feel there's a real good opportunity in craft beer to really take this head on, and that's part of our strategy and part of our plan, and part of why we're crowdfunding. We see that as a huge growth market, and it's also a growth market at good margin because it's direct to customer. It's not wholesale, and that's something we're pretty excited about. So talking about the growth plan, our focus is on profitability. What we'll see a little bit later is that we've really been aggressively addressing our profitability over the last, particularly over the last year. There's two factors in profitability, right? There's your sales and your costs. So we've been addressing both of those things, increasing our sales, reducing our costs, and there's reducing the costs the cost to make our beer, as well as the operating costs in terms of staffing, overheads, and all of that. We've been pretty aggressive in looking at those things. We've identified, or we believe we've done everything we can to adjust those things with the current what's within our control without additional capital. So we can continue to reduce our operating costs with if we had some more capital, and in particular we see opportunities around CO2 costs. As everyone knows, CO2 cost is a major cost for breweries. It is for us, and we would like to reduce that cost and use more nitrogen and generate it ourselves even. We'd also like to look at solar panels and reduce our electricity cost, and that will significantly address some of the cost side of our profitability. The personalization aspect improves the sales and the margin of our operation. Additionally, in order to exploit those markets, the new markets that we're moving into, we would like to do that with a larger brew house. We want to, as we go forward and as we expand our production, we really want to lock in the reduced staffing costs that we've seen, and we can do that with more equipment. The great thing about investing in equipment rather than more staff is that, well, obviously once you've invested in it, you don't have to pay staff, you don't have to pay equipment, right? It's yours, and that's a huge advantage. So I've touched on some of these points, but the new brew house, at the moment, we're operating with this one. As you can see, it's a 600 litre brew house, and these are 3,000 litre tanks. So I can push the brew house as hard as I can and get that down to 4 batches to fill one of these tanks, but that's a lot of labour involved in doing that. If you think, 4 batches is 2 16-hour days, essentially, and I've got 5 of these big tanks, and we've got a bunch of tanks out the back. We could turn these tanks over much quicker with a larger brew house, especially with the China opportunity that's come up. We literally filled every tank for the China order, albeit we could have put more beer in the tanks. We've used up every tank to fulfill their sample order. That gives you an idea of that opportunity. They're talking about coming back and ordering quite a bit more in the very next order in September. So having a new brew house, the brew house that we've identified, we're planning to put that next door, where the smallest tanks are, and we'd actually free up the space here for 3 more of the larger tanks. And the brew house that would fit there could actually produce 4 times as much beer in a day as that one. So that would be considerably more efficient and makes a lot more sense. Again, in terms of addressing the profitability equation, the second most important thing we would like to do is expand the bar next door into 89 Devon Street West, up at the front. There's more street frontage there, which is fantastic. It will also be an opportunity for us to rethink the entire hospitality space and the venue that we've got here. It's also an ideal place to put more taps in, because we can run them. We can back it onto a chiller and run all of our beers from directly from the chiller along there. So we could easily showcase all of our beers. We can never quite get all our beers on tap, actually. I mean, at the moment we've got 10 taps here, but we typically could fill 20 taps, and we're having to leave beer in the chiller, that we can't quite showcase, which we feel is a bit of a shame, really, that you can't get all of our beer on tap at the same time. So that would be a great opportunity. Now, we've already got the lease on that side, so the cost to us is no more to do that. We'd have no more costs, we just get more sales. We've identified that 26 days of the year we are constrained by the footprint in here and how many people we can actually get. If we can add 50% more space on those 26 days of the year, and those are the key days actually when you're actually, sort of around Christmas time, Easter time, Americana, all these events. If we could have that extra space, it adds hugely to the bottom line, actually, or potentially does. And also it allows us to have to keep the bar open when we have events, because sometimes the place gets booked out. Ideally, when the place gets booked out, that's perfect for us. We've got a captive audience. They book we have good sales, but we have to close the bar to the public. If we can keep it open, then obviously that's fantastic. So that makes a lot of sense. The new chiller would go hand in hand with that, because we would pour beer directly from it. And then a label printer and applicator for doing the personalization. So that's the core. Those are the core aspects of the crowdfund. We see that we can address those things, then they really set us up for the future in terms of more revenue for the same cost, and increasing efficiency and more beer without significant additional expense. If we go beyond the minimum, the 500, then we have a number of other things that we want to look at. So we'd look at upgrading our canning line. one of the issues from the last crowdfund was we never actually received the canning line. We have actually bought a canning line. It's in development. It's a prototype. And we were a little bit oversold on it in terms of its data development. Those guys, though, they have really stepped up and they've come down and canned for us with their prototype. So it hasn't impacted us necessarily as much as it could have. But nevertheless, actually, the canning line that we bought back then would already be too small for us now in terms of what we want to, the number of cans that we're looking at. It's a really significant number. And yeah, you know, we've had a letter of intent from this Chinese distributor, and they are talking about, you know, numbers 20 to 30,000 cans a month, basically. And yeah, what we bought previously wasn't going to cut it. Yeah, a nitrogen generator, that makes perfect sense, actually. And there's a real quick payback on this thing when you look at how much CO2 we use. And once it's in-house, you can use, most of the things we use CO2 for is not actually to carbonate the beer, for example. It's actually to purge tanks, move the beer around, clean kegs, all of that. I'd say 80–90% of the CO2 usage is not to carbonate the beer. So with a nitrogen generator, we can do all of that and not have to pay. As people may know, you know that the air is 80% nitrogen, so it's almost it comes down to it's almost free in comparison to the CO2 cost once you have this generator. So it would make a lot of sense for us. Yeah, we've looked into solar and battery power, which obviously is great for the environment and would improve the bottom line. The next one is a real interesting one. If we do raise enough funds, we want to have a look at leasing the space above us. So for the people here at the brewery, you can see there's kind of an L-shaped part of the building there, where the roof is sort of lower. And that was the old TSB museum. It's currently vacant. It's only recently been vacated by TSB, which quite interestingly, that's for the first time since they built the building themselves in the 1920s. They completely had the building now, and the tenancy above is available. We've had quite a few interesting parties come through because of the shape of it. It actually lends itself to a number of bays for golf simulation. We've had 3 independent parties come talk to us and say, hey, if we were in this space, can you guys do the hospitality for it? Because we don't know much about that, but we just know a bit about golf. And talking with the landlord, we said, well, why don't we invest in that? Because you look at that, if we're getting all the additional hospitality revenue from that, plus the golf simulation revenue, it actually does make quite a good economic sense. So yeah, that's a bit of a left field one for a brewery, but it makes a lot of sense to us and is a good business, really strong business case for it. The other thing we do is barrel program. I would really love to get into doing some barrel aged beers. It's something, it does require a bit of investment. Barrels are costly. But once we invest in equipment, then they're there. It would be great to have a small number of those next door. Wild sours, barrel-aged stouts. That's the sort of thing I would really like to get into. And then we've also got obviously some working capital would be nice, and the raise will cost us some equity. So raising the equity has a cost. So the offer. So what we've done from people might remember from the last time that we actually had $500 was our minimum share, and what we consider, we think it's, we'll come to that in the next slide, but as part of the valuation, but we feel it's conservative that the value of the business or the value of the shares have increased by 20%. since the last crowdfund. We feel that that's a conservative view from the point of view that we've won 3 champion brewery trophies. We're now exporting to several countries. We feel like that represents good value. All we're going to do is split those. So what was a $600 share, we're going to split to 6. So every shareholder will get 6 times as many shares. Once the crowdfund is successful, we'll have 6 times as many shares. And in this crowdfund, we've introduced a new lower tier of $300, which is essentially now going to be 3 shares. And we'll come to that when we look at the perks. So the shares on offer are 16,000 shares, potentially, because the maximum that we're going to look to raise is 1.6 million. So there's up to 16,000 new shares that we will raise. And that's a mix of Class A and Class B shares. So the Class A shares are the voting shares, and if people invest at a high enough level, then their shares will all be Class A. Yep, that's essentially it. So the pre-funding valuation, I'll come to the valuation sheet, but previously the last crowdfund, we valued at 4.8 million and when the share was $500, based on that 20% increase, and the additional shares that were issued from the crowdfund, that puts it at 6.748 million. And post-funding will increase the valuation by whatever shares are issued. So we talked about that valuation. So essentially, that 20% increase in share price represents a revenue multiple of 6.7, which is a reduction from the revenue multiple we used in the previous crowdfund of around 7.7. And that reflects, so although we've actually had a lot of success in that time frame, that reflects obviously it's a difficult time for the industry. So we haven't kept the revenue multiples as high as they were previously, and we think that reflects good value. There's a number of other comparisons there, and so we consider our multiples to be typical, better than some, better value than some, in fact. We'll just touch on potential returns. So when we come to look at the financial forecast, we'll see that we are anticipating, we're profitable currently, that's net profitable, not just EBIT, and we do expect that if this crowdfund is successful, then we implement these strategies that we would anticipate quite significant profits, and we feel that's quite justified in claiming that belief, and we do anticipate that within 2 years we should be paying dividends to our shareholders. So financial commentaries, I've probably touched on quite a lot of this over in the discussion that we've had here. It's been a tough year for the industry. It's been a tough couple of years for the industry, but nevertheless, we've grown our sales against that. We've increased our market share, probably by more than is reflected in the sales increases, given that the market's actually decreased. And we'll also see that we've been aggressively addressing our profitability over the last 1 year in particular, and we do feel that we are quite a well-oiled machine at this point. And the issues we're going to address through the crowdfund are further increased efficiencies, sales growth, through meeting the international market demand and through addressing sustainability and therefore costs. So we have a look at the financials. As you can see, the actual line. We've reported the figures right up to the first quarter 2025, and those are actual figures. And you can see revenue has been steadily increasing. And what you'll see is over the last 12, particularly in the last year, we've really addressed our operating expenses and our cost of goods. And there was a two-pronged approach there. So we really had to look closely at our cost of goods and the types of beers that we were making, and whether they were profitable to make them or not. So a lot of the beer we've made historically, I would classify definitely not accountants' beers. A lot of them were what I would call a market enhancing or brand enhancing beers that we put a lot of expensive ingredients, go all out, make some really interesting beer that grows our reputation in the market. And I feel that's been a good strategy to grow Three Sisters' reputation, but it did come at a cost, and we could consider that a marketing cost essentially. We have put more focus on making beers which have greater gross margin in them, which tends to be your typical, hazies, pale ales, and lagers, as opposed to pastry stouts and pastry sours. We will definitely continue to make those going forward. It's just a matter of getting the mix right and making sure that we're not making those brand enhancing beers at the expense of our profitability. We've also been addressing our operating expenses, and probably mostly our staff costs. We've really had to look really closely at that, and I feel like right now we have a really strong team that works hard, and that's really helped, and that's really addressed a lot of the issues there around operating expenses. But operating expenses we can improve now, we believe, mainly with capital expenditure on efficiency improvement. I'd like to say about the projections, I personally feel, obviously I had a lot of discussion with the accountants about, there's a very detailed model. If anyone wants to go over that, if anyone wants to, I'm happy to go and sit and talk with people around our financial model. And I feel it's quite conservative, actually, from the point of view of particularly around the China export and what the potential of that market is. When we've talked to them about other breweries that they are distributing and the growth that they've seen, and we are not claiming in these figures anything like the growth that other breweries that they are distributing have seen. So I find that really quite promising. Our balance sheet. So going forward, there's equity in the business. And what we do see that if the crowdfund is successful and the profitabilities are enhanced, we will see that cash in the business is looking to really increase nicely over the next 3-4 years. And as you can see, we are anticipating being able to issue dividends. And if we don't issue dividends, it'll be because we have a really good opportunity that we want to reinvest in the business for. We do see potential for that. A good example would be if we're completely maxed out here for the China export or the Australian, for the export markets, and we want to reinvest in a bigger, wholesale warehouse type brewery set up somewhere else. That's something we would definitely consider looking at. We don't see, this is obviously our flagship location, and we're paying leases here, so we see it makes a lot of sense to maximize this location to the extent possible. But if we are maxed out and we have the cash available and we see an opportunity to keep expanding, then we will definitely look at that, and we will consult our Class A shareholders. So we wanted to come to the perks. So I guess this is the fun part, right? So this is one of the reasons you might invest in a brewery. Not only is it potentially good from a financial point of view, but we can have some real fun with what we can offer our shareholders. And we really wanted to do two things with this crowdfund. One is to really reward our previous shareholders, and also up the fun factor, really. If we are successful, all the existing shareholders at those respective levels will have their perks quite significantly upgraded. We've kept the names of the categories of shareholder the same, just for clarity, because if you invested last time and you are in that category, these will be your new perks. Might be a good opportunity to maybe upgrade your level and gain some of the new perks if that's something you want to look at. But we've also introduced a new low-level Famma Lama Ding Dong, and I'll just cover off on some of those perks. So they will get 10% discount at the bar and online. They'll get access to the personalized beer labels, so they'll be able to order beer with whatever image they want on, whenever they want, from our website that we will set up specifically for shareholders. We would like to say that although that's a perk, in the future we might open that up to the public. In fact, we probably will. If that works well, and we see that as a good opportunity, we'll obviously open that up to the public generally. We will look to backfill that perk to our shareholders, if it's no longer specifically unique to them. So along with personalised beer labels, and also we think it's quite fun, we have bottomless fries at the bar. So if you're a shareholder, you eat fries here for life for free. And the only TNC is that you have to order a drink. It can be a Coke, but you got to order something, and you get free fries. And you still get birthday beer. You get a beer on us on your birthday, and you get 50% of a six-pack on your birthday. And everybody will share in dividends if we pay those out on the basis, and they'll be on the basis of the shares. So then the rewards start to stack. So if you, at the next level, you get a 25% discount. At the next level, it's a 40% discount in the bar and online. And I think there's quite a few shareholders already on that, so that will kick in. That'll kick in for them. Then later on, there's glassware. We're going to introduce more personalized glassware at the bar. So if we have the space next door, we'll have a big wall of your personalized glasses there. So we will actually give our here the $600 shareholders. Oops, that's not good. Just kick the screen, kick the PowerPoint off.
I just kicked it. That's okay, that's battery.
Where did you kick? Oh, the power?
Yeah.
Just press. Press something earlier.
The screen's coming back on, coming back to life. I think it's just, is it? Yeah. Well, it's got lights on it.
Maybe the power went off first.
Yeah.
Just go back to the presentation.
Yeah.
Like,
So just for the people watching online, I accidentally kicked the projector plug and it's gone off here, so we're just sorting that out. All right, it's back almost. Yeah, so depending on the level of perks, you may have different glassware, different size glassware and quality glassware. But we have a standard 410 ml branded glass here for people who are used to drinking at the bar. We'll get your name etched into that if you are a $600 shareholder. Another good perk, there'll be some shareholder merch later on. Birthday parties. So if you're a humble that's kind of it. So there are risks involved in investing. So I recommend people maybe have a review of that. We feel like we covered off on these. So beer quality, there's always a risk that our beer quality goes down, but I feel like that's a pretty low risk. We've been doing this for 7 years, and our quality goes up actually, yeah, every year. So I'm not too worried about that one. Yeah, cash flow is always an issue, but I think as we've seen, and for us that's been improving. That improves every month, so that is great. Competition, market changes. We feel we're pretty agile, and we keep addressing issues in the market and attacking those head on. And we feel like if you're adaptable and you're agile, then that's not necessarily an issue, but obviously it is a risk. Key personnel, that I would say this is a risk probably around any of the staff, but let's say me, getting an assistant brewer and training them up, that's something that I will look to do to make sure that business isn't just dependent on me making beer. Profitability, yep, we're addressing those things. Project delays, I'm a project manager, this is my thing, so I will address. Not gone off again. We were nearly there, so forget this thing. I've kicked it off again. So yeah, downturn in craft beer consumption. Again, like we said, we're going against the trend because we're growing our market share quicker than the market is decreasing. Yeah. Yeah, it'll come on again. Export. I mean, there are issues with export in the sense that, some people may know that some other breweries have run into issues with export, but that was more on their quality control, actually. I mean, I'm talking, it's quite a well-known incident in the craft beer industry, quality issue that happened with Deep Creek. With their cans that they were exporting to China, and they had a seaming issue on the cans, and that was a problem for them. So obviously quality control is key, right? You're sending that beer across the world. It's got to, but we are making absolutely sure, I'm looking at every can as it's coming off the line, making sure that there's no issues with that. So actually, maybe, some other, didn't pay as much attention with the quality for export, but for me, it's something we have to pay particular attention to and raise our standards on even. So that's what we're going to do. Yeah, so that's the presentation really. So I think we're going to do some Q&A now. So I know there's some people online, so I encourage them to text any questions. I would, at this point, I would like to introduce, let people know that we've got Anna Gunther from Pledge Me online, so we can answer any issues that are related to the mechanics of of the pledging and the process as well. If anyone has anything like that, and she's also might be able to provide some backup responses to what I say. But yeah, I'm happy to take any questions from anyone here or online. Yes.
Yeah, just so with the tiering system, if you invested in one of the tiers last time, your perks just get upgraded.
Yeah.
Match the same tier this time.
Yeah, if you're in a tier, you just get the better perks.
Yeah, so then you can choose that.
Yeah, so if you wanted to upgrade, so if you only have to pay the difference. You don't have to invest the entire new tier to get to the new tier. If you pay the delta, or if you invest the delta, so your total shares are, it's based on the total share investment to upgrade. Yeah. Any other question? Yes.
Sorry, can I just get you to hold the microphone?
Yeah.
So you obviously have quite a progressive business plan, looking like, from what you've just said,
Yes.
it looks like it's going to span over at least 5 to 8 years,
Yes.
maybe. What would be your priority now? Like if we were, so you're going into China,
Yeah.
is that your priority to get your tanks bigger?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah, that would be the number one. So probably they were probably in order there in terms of priority on that list. So the brew house would be the number one thing that I would like to address. It's the bottleneck for our production. I mean, we could, I can see that it's going to quickly become a constraint where it's a sales constraint. This one piece of equipment, so it makes perfect sense to address that. Yeah, because we've actually from the last crowdfunding, I was saying we've actually increased our capacity quite a lot more than we were expecting to at that point in time. But the labor effort to fill all the tanks there's the labor effort, but also the time duration. You know what I mean? We want to be able to turn the tanks over, fill more tanks in shorter periods of time, so that it's so that we're optimizing the capacity. So we've got the capacity, but we're not optimizing it from a production point of view, and that would allow us to do that. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, Nigel.
Just repeat the question.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, you want to?
I'm just wondering if you were to buy a share parcel and then gift it to someone else, are the perks transferable?
So you're asking are our perks transferable if you gift shares? Yeah. So if you gift the shares, so whoever has a number of shares that fits within one of those perk categories, then they'll get those perks, essentially. So if you gift them and they're in our shareholding, our share list of shareholders with those numbers of shares, the person with those numbers of shares has those perks. Yeah. Yeah, whoever is the holder of the shares gets the perks. That's right. Yeah.
So I can sell them as well?
Yes, you can sell them. We don't have a free market. Not at the moment. It's something we're actually looking into. There are mechanisms for doing this. So we're talking to Anna from Pledge Me actually. If we get our accounts fully audited, so I mean they are prepared by our accountant Tandem Group, but if they're fully audited, which is the next level of there's a cost in doing that. Then I think there are platforms that we can, they're like free market platforms where we can open it up for people to trade. Nevertheless, we can do a share transfer at any time. If you wanted to sell your shares to someone else, then you could do that. We can facilitate that. But it's not on a free market. You know, it's not. There's not a free market platform for doing it. Not yet, no. But I say, if we get our accounts audited, then I think there's certain platforms that we can offer that, or for certain windows. It's something I was looking into, and Anna from Pledge Me let me know about it. And there are, I think there's other platforms that allow you to do that. It's not quite like a free market, but it sort of has some of the elements of it. But you can sort of buy and you can trade shares on the platform for limited amounts of time. I'm not quite sure. Is what I understood. There was limited amounts of time that you can do it for, but I'm not quite sure what limits the time. Anyway, it's something we're looking into. Yeah.
You said it was 30,000 per month to China. Is that the current?
Cans. Yeah. We're packaging. Like I said, they've sent us a sample order, which was 15,000 cans, and they said they'll come back and order. You know, they're expecting their next order to be more in the region of 25.
Do you know the profitability per can?
Yes. Yeah. It's good. It's actually much better margins than we were anticipating. To give you a feel for it, because I was just working this out yesterday, actually. If we were to sell 3 30ml 6-packs in New Zealand at the same margin, you would be buying those in a supermarket at $28. So I think that just gives you a feel for, you know, and I think that would be good if we could sell that 6-packs, 3 30ml 6-packs in New Zealand at 28. We'd be happy. Yeah.
So the total bits and pieces on the Australia platform, once that all crowdfunding stuff goes ahead, that'll split out, aren't they?
Yeah. So if the crowdfund is successful, I think for those, I guess no one was familiar with how we did the last crowdfund, but we gave everyone a sort of membership card and let them know what their perks were, etc. We're actually looking at maybe doing something a bit more sophisticated this time around having like a loyalty card that, particularly for people that come into the bar, that's sort of QR coded, that will automatically. So when you go to pay, you just swipe your card and get your discount and make it nice and easy. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you going to promote your campaign at Birvana?
Are we going to promote our campaign at Birvana? Yes, we are actually. And also we're actually going to be, so we'll promote it there. We're going to have a banner, a sign, some signage, QR code, so you can go directly to the Pledge Me page. We're also going to be giving away shares via Wheel of Fortune at the stand. Yeah, so that should be fun. I think that might be a bit on the first.
Yeah, one more question. Hi Joe, that's Jeffrey Reed. It's important to have another assistant brewer. Are you actively looking to find one, just in case anything happens? And what about us growing non-alcoholic market?
Yeah, those are two good questions. So I think I might have touched on that. The next key hire for me is an assistant brewer. So yeah. So that's yes to that question. The no alcohol market, yeah, I think we have to get involved in that. To be fair, it's amazing how much of a trend that has become. We actually made a low alcohol beer a couple of years ago, and it didn't. You know, the reaction at the time was more sort of, who wants to drink that? It's amazing how much the market's changed in that time frame. And there's some really interesting products on the market that allow you to make these low and no alcohol beers, particular yeast products. So yeah, we're definitely going to look at that.
A couple more. Will the investor discounts also apply to trade orders, kegs, and bottle stock?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's probably, I mean, I'd have to have I don't know if I have an answer for that right now because it depends on the volume, right? I mean, like, yeah, if someone gets the 40%, because our wholesale prices are already obviously sort of discounted, right, for volume. So I'm not quite sure that we would be able to do that. That's not to say, I don't know. I can actually say those discounts are on retail pricing. But I think the 40% discount is getting possibly better to, it's getting down, or possibly, depending on the product, might be better than the wholesale pricing. So you might be, so they might be better off investing and then buying their beer as investors rather than wholesalers. I don't yeah.
We've got one last question. Alan Rokima, what's your 3-year goal for the brand?
3-year goal for the brand is sort of several-fold, really. We really want to grow our brand in China. I mean, obviously that probably comes across here, right? We see that as a huge opportunity, and talking to the distributors, they seem to really like our brand. And we actually won this deal with them competitively against a number of other New Zealand breweries that you will obviously have heard of. And so that was, and one of the reasons they did so it was their sort of distributability of our brand, and they liked our labels, and they liked our branding. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, so that's one aspect. And then in terms of the brand, I mean, we just want to keep growing the brand. We want to be synonymous with quality. I mean, we feel like that's something that we have been working on and hopefully achieved to date. Very consistent award, and we want to keep that up. So, and in fact, obviously, we want to keep doing better. And so, yeah, every year I'm thinking, how can we up our game again? How can we get even more medals next year? That's always what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Said the same gentleman, with 40% discount, are you letting too much go?
Not at retail. Yeah. I mean, it's getting pretty like, it's like wholesale type of cost sort of thing across the board. Possibly slightly better, but then hey, our wholesale customers don't invest in us, so it's fair. But they can, like I say, that was the question. If this was a wholesaler, it sounds like the wholesaler asking the question. But yeah, they can compare pricing, our wholesale pricing versus their discount pricing. Because if they're a wholesale, they probably have received our pricing. But yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, so it's obviously a lot riding on the China deal.
Yeah.
With your distributor, are they a Chinese company based in China, or are they an internal company?
So the question was, is our distributor a Chinese-based or New Zealand-based Chinese distributor? They're Chinese-based Chinese distributor. Yeah.
And the other part of the question is, obviously there's so much riding on that. Should that distribution fall over?
Yeah.
Were there others that you were speaking to, or
so yeah, the question is, are there other potential Chinese distributors if for some reason this falls over with this one? Well, what's particularly interesting here is that actually this distributor actually found us, so which is great. So they found us on the basis of our Untapped scores. I don't know if everyone is familiar with the app Untapped, but it's a beer rating social media platform essentially, right? And we're one of the highest rated breweries in New Zealand on the platform, which is great. And in particular, our hazy beers, which is apparently what the Chinese market is getting really hot for right now, are our hazy beer untapped scores are sort of almost the best in New Zealand, which is really great thing to hear, and I didn't even know that. But they told me that, and that was one of the reasons that they were keen to buy our beer. So they come to us. So I do feel like, although we have not talking to other distributors, which was kind of the question, we feel like once we've had a bit of distribution there, then there's opportunity to talk to other distributors should this one not fall over, and we've got a good basis for that. Yeah. Cool. Nothing more online? Yeah.
Just on a more lighthearted note, have you decided on making some pins?
Some pins. We should have had a chat with you, Nigel, before I put this perk table together. Nigel here is asking whether we had any brewery pins. I can look at the cost of it. I'll get one just for you, Nigel. Okay.
If you were going to look into non-alcoholics, are you specifically sticking with non-alcoholic beer, or would you consider venturing out into ginger beer, other ciders? Or even if you've got canning plants sitting here,
Yeah.
can you keep maximum use out of it by?
Yeah. So yeah, question was, would we look at other non-alcoholic beverages other than beer? Yeah, quite possibly. We're also looking at other alcoholic beverages other than beer, such as alcoholic ginger beer and alcoholic lemonade, which actually gone down pretty well. But we could just leave the alcohol out and sell the ginger beer because it was pretty good. Yeah, went down pretty well in the brew pub. We haven't distributed it, we haven't even put it in cans yet, but yeah, that's something we would look at doing. Yeah. Yeah, I quite like making all kinds of beverages actually, not just the beer. I don't have a distillery here, but yeah, it's yeah. But yeah, potentially it's all it's all on the cards. Yeah. Cool. All right. I think that might be a wrap. So yeah, all right. Thanks everyone for coming, and thanks for all your questions. Thanks for listening, and enjoy food and beer. Cheers.